Hi, Limit Break Overdrive with another build guide video. I once again go with Bone Shadow Juggernaut, and this will most likely be my league starter. As you can see from the gameplay footage, mapping is pretty straightforward. You just right click to kill packs, and you leap slam or you run in between packs. I quite often leap slam because I think it's faster. Bone Shatter gives you free splash damage, so you don't have to include melee splash support as a gem link, which is pretty good. As long as you stun, and when you're mapping, you're dealing enough damage to stun almost all the time. We use close combat support because, first of all, it's a shit ton of damage, and it gives us combat rush, which allows our Icy Leap Slam or any movement skill used after an attack to be way faster, so we don't have to link faster attack support with Leap Slam, which is in itself saving us a precious socket, because socket pressure is kind of hard on this build. Against bosses or strong rares, you drop your two totems, Ancestral Protector and War Chief, to get their buffs, and you whack and win. That's easy. And since you generate rage with your mastery for axes, so basically every time you attack you get rage, not more than once per second, but I also use vengeance and rage support, so you can generate rage quite quickly. So that gives you the option to use berserk when you need it to get a big damage burst or damage mitigation as well, because berserk does both. And the build requires no uniques, no influence gear at all. It's just rares, and you can just start and go all the way to the end game. You can of course improve the build if you have currency or if you have good RNG. Like Razdome is pretty strong for defense. You're crit immune. You get a shit ton of armor, which is double with the ascendancy, and then you get maximum resistances. The only drawback is you don't have life on the chest, but there's a new mastery that gives you 15% increase maximum life when your chest does not have life. So this kind of counter the fact that Razdom doesn't have life. You can also go the route of more deeps and use a hunter chest with +1 curses or chance to attack or bow or tailwind on bows. There's plenty of things you can do to keep improving and have chase items for the build. Before starting with the POB, I just want to say that POB is currently not updated at the moment of the recording, but I did it manually so I could have the new notes. So technically, once POB is updated, you should be able to just download or copy the paste bin or whatever link I give you and import it in POB without problems. If for whatever reason, once the update is ready, this breaks and doesn't work, I'm just gonna update the link in the description with a better one that will work with the update, but there shouldn't be any problems. And I will be more than happy to help you if you have any question with the build, but I would like if you first would watch the whole video and read the notes, because there's a big notes section in the build, and I believe I answer pretty much any questions you might have, but hey, if you still have one, I'll be more than happy to help. So I've made a few changes to the build compared to last league, mainly because of the changes they made to masteries. For example, we only take one life mastery, 50 to life, because there's no 10% increase maximum life anymore. And for that reason, we don't have what we were taking here, which was Determination has 25% increased mana reservation efficiency. They removed that for every single aura, and the only place we have a mastery for that now is on the mana, which I don't like, but that's why we take this mana node to get the mastery with mana reservation. This is one skill point less than going there, or even one less. But if when I get higher level, if I go higher than 94, I might change that, because there's a new mastery that gives us 1 to all maximum LE res if we reserve both life and mana, and we do on this build. And even if we did not, if you want to take this, you can just reserve a level 1 vitality, for example, and boom, you get +1 max res. But yeah, I'm going with this. This mastery is new. We're gonna be basically immune to bleeding, And for Cyrus, I'm gonna spec out of that and spec into Corrupted Blood Immunity, or I might even get it on a Jewel, so bleeding shouldn't be a problem. You can always, if you really hate poison, pick up a Nightmare Bassinet, which has more evasion than armor, to get poison immune, and you can just take Iron Reflexes to convert the evasion to armor, and I mean, you're all good. Before I was using Fortify Support instead of Melee Fizz, but now I switched those around, because before I was preferring saving skill points by not getting Fortify on the tree, but now this notable changed, and instead of giving +4 max fortification, it gives us +3, but it gives us 0.1 life regen per fortification. So by taking Fortify here, we get 1, 2, 3, 6 extra, -3 for Fortify on hit, so we get 23 fortification instead of 20, which means 2.3% life regen for free. So I kind of like that, and since we had to lose a few attack nodes for the mana, Melee Fizz is more damage overall than just Fortify, so we're about at the same point damage-wise than compared to last league, I believe, maybe slightly lower, but it shouldn't make that much difference. And this life regen, you can see I'm at like 900 life regen, and I don't believe this calculates this node, so regen should be pretty good. This node, if you have life leech on your gear, you can just ditch, it's just for life leech. You can just take life or armor or whatever you want. It's just because I don't get life leech normally on my gear. I have mana leech on my gear. This is all gear I had last league in SSF, and my amulet had life mana leech, so that was great. Otherwise, you can just get it on a jewel, and that's, I mean, that's pretty much. Oh yeah, we get Intimidate, because this node was strong because we got Intimidate on hit. I mean, 50% chance per hit, and with the attack speed, we were always intimidating the enemy. But now I take it with this mastery, so this node is not as good, so the other nodes are giving us more damage basically. As for the curse, I like using Assassin's Mark, and the reason being that I generate flash charges with crit chance. However, a viewer on YouTube, and thanks by the way, made me notice that it's not as good as I believe it was, because you don't gain 1 charge for every flask that has this mod every time you crit. Well, every time it procs. It's only 1 flask, and it's not more than once every 0.1 second, which means 10 times a second. So what I might end up doing, I'm gonna test things out. I might do the critical strike chance and flash charge on 2 flasks, like the one that gives me armor to get more defense, and the other ones might just be like when I'm hit by an enemy, because while mapping this is gonna be strong enough, 3 charges every time you get hit, but against bosses maybe not. That's why I prefer having my defense in check with crit chance. This way it should be pretty good. I'm just gonna test it out and see if there's a noticeable difference or not. So yeah, this is something that's maybe will change, but for this reason I like using Assassin's Mark, because this is more crit chance, and you can get power charges once you get quality on it. It's 5%, but you will more likely than not have 1 or 2 power charge every time. But if you don't have the int, or you prefer using Poacher's Mark, it's totally fine. This is in the build guide, it's deactivated. But yeah, Poacher Mark and Assassin's Mark are basically the same amount of damage, it's just the other one gives you power charges sometimes. Well, this one gives you life on hit. So these are the differences, and this is disabled, because in the build I have a gear set for Hunter Chest with +1 max curses, and now we're at 5 mil with this armor alone. So if I enable this, we're at 6.4 mil. So this is really strong if you can get that. You can also, if you're rich, anoint Whispers of Doom, which is here, instead of Titanic Impact. You get an additional curse, and this is bonkers how much more damage you get. Lastly, there's 2 things I want to mention. First, since I don't take Unstoppable, because I prefer generating endurance charges and having one more maximum and saving some points. I like taking cannot be maimed and hindered to not be slowed. I get freeze immune with the Brine King Pantheon, and I craft chill immunity on my boots with movement speed. This is a true betrayal. This is usually what I do, and the only thing that can slow me is Temp Chains and like the rare mobs with like the temporal bubble, and it's not that bad. It's not the end of the world. I don't mind it. But later on, another thing I did that it's the first time I added a skill tree for level 100. Now I take this because it's just more armor, more defense. Now you could make the switch if you wanted to, if you prefer that. Personally, I don't care. So apart from that, have fun, because this is a game and I enjoy playing melee. I enjoy this build a lot. Like the splash damage and like blowing packs is really satisfying. So I hope you're gonna enjoy the build as much as I do. Leave a comment down below if you enjoy the build, if you're gonna league start with it, and don't forget you can ask me for help or tips if you need to. So I'm gonna try to prepare a second build guide if I manage to come up with something fun, and if so, I'll post it. If not, then I'll be seeing you Friday on the beach. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.